The 8-game losing streak by the Utah Jazz is done as they blow out their Orlando Magic 113-99. But if you want a sight for sore eyes, you got one. Orlando's offense. It's next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm David Locke. He's Ron Boone, your Utah Jazz radio broadcast team. The Utah Jazz beat the Orlando Magic 113-99. We bring you POSTCAST live after every single Utah Jazz game all season long, except for Monday coming up. Today we'll look at the improved play of Isaiah Collier. We'll look at what happened to Orlando's offense and the Jazz getting a solid win. Is this a 48-minute performance tonight? Like, what's your feeling on this afternoon?
I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
I think if Orlando was making a few shots, we probably would have. It definitely would have been a little closer ball game.
So the storyline coming in was that the Jazz with the 30th ranked half-court defense against the Magic's 30th ranked half-court offense, which is a matchup of weakness, not a matchup of strength. The Jazz, I thought, did a good job. How should we phrase this? Forcing the Magic to expose their own weaknesses.
I agree with that. Why? Because going into tonight's game, we were concerned about the size of the Magic. And then Paolo, who's struggling, they continue to give him outside shots, and he just couldn't make it. He was hitting the front of the rim on almost every shot, as though he didn't have the legs. But you get to the point where you're struggling, you start aiming, and your release is different. And that's what I saw in him.
And he's not a natural shooter. He's one of these guys who's been bigger and stronger than everybody else he's guarded.
So he's a scorer.
He's a scorer. Like, he was compared a little bit to Carmelo coming out of Duke, your number one pick. He's not. He improved his three-point shooting last year, but it wasn't good as his first year. So he's not a natural shooter. So coming off that oblique, he's clearly not right. He was shooting 41% from the field, 27% coming in his 10 games back, and he's 4 of 19 tonight, only because he made one late, and he was one of, I think, missed 9 straight at one point in the ball game. Honestly, his performance was something to behold in the negative fashion.
So it's the question here is that when he goes, this team goes, or I know the Wagner brothers is probably, they may be missed, or he may be missed more than.
I mean, there's some interesting things. Paolo had such a monster year last year. He was really good in the playoffs. And then when he got hurt, they kind of survived for a little while. And then when both Wagner and Banchero got hurt, they didn't survive. And now when Banchero came back, they haven't survived. So they're in a really weird place. And I do think, hey, it's great the Jazz got the win. The headline for the league standpoint is going to be their performance. Like, the fact that they've come out here to Portland and Utah and dropped back-to-back games by combined 42 points is going to be the story of kind of the league. Is what do the Magic do about this?
They got Golden State, they got Sacramento and
Denver,
and Denver, and this could be
right. This could get away
kind of
pretty fast. Yeah. All right, from a Jazz standpoint, the year is about development and about growth, and I think we're seeing a lot out of Isaiah Collier.
Yeah, he is very impressive now. I mean, I'm sold on him right now. At the beginning of the year, I was not really sold on him. Didn't respect his shooting. And you pointed out many times, and I've watched this. Yes, he is better shooting off the dribble than a catch and shoot player. But I'm more impressed with the speed and the decisions he's making in transition. Or, there's sometimes in half court when he tries to force a pass in a narrow spot or something like that doesn't get there, the deflection. But for the most part, in transition, he makes very good decisions.
Will Hardy's kind of mentioned he has a really good basketball IQ in a bunch of. Where do you see that?
I'm, without being with him every day, I see it on the floor. His decisions, like I mentioned in transition, going up and down the floor, what you have to be impressed with when you watch a guy coming up and down the floor. Magic Johnson used to have this knack. He's coming up the floor, he's dribbling high, and he's looking for who's where, who's running with him, that kind of thing. Then you start setting up a defender to get certain guys the basketball, or if they commit. Now you make the good decision of getting the basketball to the right person. That's what I'm starting to see in him. sometimes his speed gets ahead of his defenders. I mean, it's his players that are running with him, but for the most part, he's still getting results.
So here's what I find really interesting about this conversation is that when I scouted him for the draft, and I was a big fan, this draft did not have star players. Mm-hmm. So you start, at least what I did, when you don't have star players, then I'm starting to look like who's got skills that jump out at me, right? So Reed Shepard's shooting was incredible. Ryan Dunn's defense was incredible. And Isaiah Collier's first step crossover ability to beat a guy was the best of anyone in the draft, in my opinion. I didn't see anyone who could put the ball on the deck and beat someone the way Isaiah Collier could. And so to me, when I thought about his NBA career, that was the piece that I thought would be the like you're trying to figure out, like, can this guy play in the NBA? Like, that's the jump start to me for him, is he's going to start from there. But what I'm almost hearing you saying is, well, there's actually a lot more skills that probably in the collegiate game you couldn't see or on that USC team. So that he may have, one, this ability to see the floor, this ability to kind of IQ the game, see it. And he can shake anyone. He can beat anyone off the bounce. He doesn't know how to finish at the rim yet. He's just learning how to control himself enough for a midi. Like, he's got a bunch of stuff he's got to learn, but we're seeing two pieces of a puzzle here that can start to be the foundation by which he builds everything else.
So has he changed your mind a little bit from college to here, being able to take guys off the dribble or whatever? And what I'm seeing now, yes, he can. And he's learning how to use his body, bumping guys when he's going to the basket now because he's strong. Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's
so the only reason he can't beat anybody off the dribble here is because the league scouting is so good that everyone's 4 feet off of him. Yeah. And so he can't beat someone because they're not on him. In the college, these coaches are stupid. And they're like, you got to get body up on everyone. That's what we do, right? Regardless of personnel. You see it all the time in the college game. Because, like, the coach has got to, like, prove his point of some insanity. And so then Isaiah would just kill people. Like, I mean, I talked to Mark Madsen about it, who's a good coach. I'm not putting him in that group, but about Cal, because he was at Cal, and he's like, oh, we could not keep him off the rim. We just couldn't. But in the college game, he was able to get to the rim. Here, he just can't get to the rim in that same fashion at all. All right, kind of an interesting game. At one point, the Jazz had Collier, Filipowski, Sensabaugh, and Keontae on the floor, 4 youngsters. They closed the game with actually 5 veterans tonight. John Collins really is having just a fabulous, fabulous year and deserves some accolades.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm watching now. He's averaging about 13 shots a ball game, and for the amount of minutes that he plays, his shots selection is good for the most part. Sometimes he tries to force shots in the paint, but for the most part, his shot selection is good, and his field goal percentage is definitely off the charts right now. He's shooting the basketball, doing a lot of things very, very well. But I've been impressed with the way he's scoring with only 13 shots a game, and that means his field goal percentage is up. I was so surprised to see the numbers of 70% in the month of January. January shooting threes. That's a heck of a number.
I also want to just give him credit because there were a lot of times last year and early this year, particularly when he started coming off the bench. Like, I thought he was going to get 13 shots in 5 minutes. So for him to kind of adapt and to roll into this team in this mold and be a pretty darn good teammate is an impressive step for a guy who's on a funky team this year.
Yeah. And this is what I'm impressed with, is that we can have our opinion, but then when you listen to the coach and what they say about him, then that makes a big difference.
Yeah, they're very positive about him all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get, coaches don't have a lot of people to talk to. Every now and then we'll get a coach grumble.
I had one tonight.
Right. The coaches will need somebody to grumble to every now and then. We usually are that person, and you kind of put it through a filter. But I would just say we don't get a John Collins grumbles this year at all. The other one I just am loving watching every night in his own uniqueness is Collin Sexton. I think he was like plus 25 tonight, 22 points. I don't want to trade him here in this conversation, but like you just watch Orlando. Like, could a team be more desperate for somebody who has it's a really, we literally just watched him. I don't mean to, I mean it in this sense. We just watched Orlando play a basketball game. They don't have a single guy on the roster who can do, Collin Sexton's got unique skills to be able to put the ball in the basket and score.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, put this in the right perspective with a player like that. He can play as a starter, and he can definitely be a player that can come off the bench. I mean, he's a coach's dream.
He's a good Cole Anthony.
he's a better Cole Anthony.
Yeah,
Let's put
he's
it
a
that
good
way.
Cole Anthony. Right.
But that's the kind of player he is, and he accepts challenges, and he's a junkie. What does he do in the summer?
Runs around.
I bet he's in the gym somewhere
stuff all the time. I know that.
Go to the park and just beat up on guys or
Yes,
something.
probably. Know? Right. He's Uncle Drew. He's going to be like he'll be at the park playing. All right, reliability. Are we leaving anybody out tonight? Interesting, by the way, the Jazz won tonight without doing a lot of offensive rebounding, which has generally been the key. Defensively, they forced them in all the right stuff. And also, by the way, some of the stuff you deserve credit for is like Anthony Black's a bad shooter. The Jazz laid off him by like 5 feet, and then he has to take the shot, and he misses. And that's how you disrupt the team's offense. And there was this moment in the game where I actually thought that everybody in Orlando was missing so much that everybody started just jacking shots. Like, well, hey, Paulo's missed 9 straight, so I can shoot this. Or like the rightful order of the basketball universe and who takes shots and things just went like wildly out the window for a little while there because, well, I can't get yelled at today for shooting because we're shooting 27%, so I'm pulling now. It was wacky.
David, listen, if you don't shoot, you have to shoot.
Yeah,
I don't care how bad you're shooting.
Like
coaches, because they think coaches, you're open. Shoot the basketball.
But I'll go back to something that Nate McMillan talked to me about once. We were playing I was with the Sox at the time. My timing on this is weird. And Stockton Malone were on the team, and Brian Russell still was. Or maybe we were just Nate and I were talking about how you should have guarded the Jazz in their day. And he's like, I would have just left Brian Russell open. And I was like, why? He's a pretty good shooter. He goes, right. But after his 4th shot in the first quarter, he would be thinking to himself, like, damn, Carl and John, Carl's going to shoot. Carl's going to shoot. Right? Like, there is a little bit of an order in an NBA game of like, hey, I've taken 3 shots already, and I usually get 6, so I probably shouldn't take my 4th one in the quarter. Like, that exists. And I thought Orlando today, at one point in the game, was just like, yeah, I don't care how many shots I get. Everyone's missing so badly, I'm just jacking.
As a broadcaster, I think that way sometimes watching Lowry because he's not getting enough shots. And then we've talked about this many, many times. I think he should be a 15-shot per game player. But he's got to help himself in order to do that.
Yeah, he just cannot create his own shot yet. Yeah. All right. Who are you giving?
You know, I was looking at this and struggled with it. I'm just going to go with the starting 5. I just, I'm strictly without points and how you got points.
So John Collins, certainly.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
Lowry had 11 rebounds. Lowry had a lot of defense to play tonight. They were going after him on almost, yes. I would agree with this completely, Ron.
Yeah. Or if you wanted to take one of those guys off, who would you take off?
Lowry.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So you want to go Collins, Kessler, Sexton, Collier?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry, I think the reliability plus standard is higher than some others in the sense that he probably is expected to score more than 12 points a game.
Yeah. And then they did attack him tonight, too.
Yes. All right. Jazz and the Magic win 113-99. I'm David Locke. He's Ron Boone. Thanks very much for tuning in. We will now send you, please subscribe and follow. We will now send you.
Afternoon, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
It's 6:00.
Yes. Fun. Ron Boone's partying tonight.
Oh,
he's fighting the disco bar he talked about in the pregame. Jazz, have a great night. Or he's going to ride his Peloton for the first time ever. See ya. We'll send you the first ever. Go grab Locked On NBA game night, every game, every night here on Locked On Podcast Network.